Welcome back, everyone. We got a little bit of controversy to talk about today, coming from Dwight Howard, Phil Handy, and a little bit about Rob Pelinka from Dwight Howard. He went on a podcast earlier this week and talked about their 2019-2020 team, what they maybe could have been if they stayed together, and, kind of put some blame on Rob Pelinka, and I think did a little bit of revisionist history, if you know what I'm talking about here. You know how fans tend to remember that team compared to what actually happened, and we're going to break it all down, what's true, what's not true, and how things could have maybe really turned out, and how things were actually talked about and seen back then as well, both by maybe Dwight Howard and the fan base as well. So a lot to break down, no script today, we're going to talk about whatever comes off the top of my head relating to the actual topic of the video, but no script. I don't got a face cam, I'm not at home today, but we will do more of those reaction type videos in the future as well. A lot of you seem to like them, a lot of you seem to think I did a quote-unquote face reveal for that reaction video I did to Bronny James' workout earlier this week, but no, I have done about 6 live streams in the past. I did the NBA draft throughout Summer League and a few more after that, and you probably were not notified because you don't have notifications turned on, so if you do want to be notified in the future when I go live or do more of these reaction videos or any videos in general, be sure to turn on notifications. YouTube won't notify you if you don't have them turned on, so be sure to turn them on, and especially if you really enjoy the content, I genuinely appreciate it. But again, don't forget to hit that notification bell if you do want to be notified in the future about live streams, videos, or whatever it might be. We will be doing post-game breakdowns during the NBA season. I'll probably do a few throughout preseason, and we'll be doing a lot more interaction that way in the future, so again, feel free to turn them on if you want to and enjoy the content. But without further ado, let's dive right into it. And the big quote going around right now from Dwight Howard was him saying that Rob Pelinka kind of messed up the dynasty we was starting. We would have had at least 2 championships and an opportunity to fight for a third one, meaning if he did end up keeping their 2019-2020 team together. And I think there's a lot of confusion about if he was truly able to do that, what the fans wanted him to do back then, so we're gonna break it all down. And to begin, I think we got to go back to that 2019-2020 roster. And if you remember it had quite a few guys that people were not really a fan of at that point, especially during the NBA bubble. If you remember back to that, Danny Green was not shooting that well, and he, for one, was at the top of the hate list for a lot of fans. I mean, I think there's even a point where he got death threats, not that it should really shock anyone, but fans definitely wanted Danny Green gone, so if we remember that correctly, the fans didn't want the whole team back, if we're being honest. Danny Green was at the top of that, and they did end up trading him for Dennis Schroeder, who, kind of went through his own controversy about turning down that $84 million contract and ending up having to take a $5 million one later that summer. But pushing that aside, Danny Green, for one, was not wanted back at all. Another guy like Quinn Cook, I don't think really people were too high on or cared that much about him coming back. Rajon Rondo, they unfortunately could not bring back. He took a way bigger contract than they could offer him at that point from the Atlanta Hawks, if I remember correctly. Something like a 3 or 2 year, $18 to $24 million contract. Kyle Kuzma, a lot of people wanted to be traded, even though they did keep him, which I think was the right move at that point, but a lot of people definitely wanted him gone. Markieff Morris, they brought him back. Jared Dudley, they brought him back even though people wanted him gone or to become an assistant coach at that point, but they did bring him back. Then Dwight Howard himself, he left. There's a lot of controversy about that one. Did they offer him a contract? Did they not? And then Dwight Howard kind of panicked and went to Philadelphia on a minimum contract. Now, he did come back a year later after that, but at that point he was pretty close to being washed up, went through a ton of injuries, and I think people are really remembering that one incorrectly, and Dwight Howard being one of those people. He on his own, he left the team, and that's kind of on him. He panicked, took a contract with a different team that he thought would be good, and it didn't quite work out for him or the team, but we'll get into that a little bit more in a bit here. Then moving down the list, they kept Talen Horton-Tucker. That's a controversial one too. They thought he would amount to something big. They ended up giving him a pretty large contract the following summer, and that one obviously never panned out. They ended up trading him, and now Talen's a free agent, not even on an NBA team right now. Other than that, they had J.R. Smith, who pretty much got forced into retirement after this season. He was pretty close to being washed up, and I don't think people really cared about if he came back or not. And then apart from that, the two-way contracts of Kostas Antetokounmpo and Devontae Cacok, which two-way contracts, I don't think people really even remember them that much and really cared that much about them coming back or not. And then for a few more guys that they did keep, of course, they kept Alex Caruso, a fan favorite at the time, still fan favorite today. I wish they would have kept him longer. That's actually a problem for the 2020-21 team going into that 2022 NBA season. So not really on topic for today, but they did end up keeping Caruso, so you really can't be mad about what Rob Pelinka did that summer with Caruso. Apart from that, obviously kept LeBron AD. They traded JaVale McGee because of a financial situation again. They ended up replacing him with Marc Gasol, and while I don't think that worked out perfectly for them, I think a lot of people remember what Marc Gasol did for them incorrectly. I thought he was pretty good. I mean, he might not have been the shot blocker, rim protector that a lot of people liked with Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, but he was a really good playmaker for them, really good floor spacer for them. They actually could pair him a little bit better with Anthony Davis and LeBron in certain lineups, and he didn't get played off the court entirely during the fourth quarter due to offensive reasoning, but I don't think that was that bad. They had to trade JaVale McGee because his contract getting a little bit larger after that season, and they couldn't quite fit under the hard cap. Apart from that, again, they kept LeBron AD, kept KCP another year, so I don't think they had a bad team at all going into that 2020-2021 NBA season. Again, all the guys they kept, then they added Dennis Schroeder, they picked up Montrezl Harrell, and at the time, people were big fans of both those additions. They picked up Wesley Matthews, people like that one as well. And overall, if you take a look at this team, I thought it was a very good team, and I think this is the part that I'm really referring to that people are remembering incorrectly, to where this team was a major downgrade, quote unquote, or could not compete with the team they had during the 2019-2020 NBA season. I thought this was a very good team, and if they had not gone through injuries with Anthony Davis, LeBron got hurt for a while as well, they were the number one seed in the West up until AD got hurt in, I think, mid-December, if I remember correctly. Might have been a little bit later or earlier, but I know they were the number one seed. They had a really good record. They had a ton of momentum as well. And if Anthony Davis had not gotten hurt during that round one of the playoffs against Phoenix, I think they could have definitely got back to the NBA Finals, if not repeat with this team. They had a very good all-around team, in my opinion. They had a lot of momentum before AD got hurt, and I think people are really remembering that incorrectly. But again, I would agree that, they probably did make a few too many changes when they didn't really have to, and that you can put on Rob Pelinka. And right now, a lot of hate and a lot of slanders kind of going Rob Pelinka's way with the current offseason, with him not making any moves right now, or not making really many apart from Dalton Connect and Bronny James through the NBA draft, and then not really making any free agent moves at all. So that's been a bit controversial, and then all of this kind of adding up, people remembering that 2019-2020 team, guys like Dwight Howard making quotes like this, and then, like I referred to before, Phil Handy, now former assistant coach for the team and former head of player development, chimed in by saying facts under an Instagram post about the quote that Dwight Howard made on Gilbert Arenas' podcast, and that kind of added more fuel to the fire. Now a former assistant, longtime assistant coach in their team, kind of directing a little bit of, maybe not slander, but controversy towards Rob Pelinka's way. I don't even really know for sure if Phil Handy was referring to Dwight Howard talking about them changing up the team, or him simply saying facts to them having a chance to repeat. So that might be interpreted a bit incorrectly, but again, a lot of controversy here, a lot to kind of go through, and I think a lot of it is kind of remembered incorrectly. But for sure, they had a great team back in 2019-2020. I think they had a really good team going into 2020-2021. And if you ask me, the real problem was what happened the year after that one. I think they would have been completely fine, kind of quote-unquote running it back with their 2020-2021 team. Maybe a few minor changes, getting a tiny bit younger, and that's really all they needed. The big problem was making the Russell Westbrook trade during that 2021 summer. And we won't talk about that one too much, don't want to bring up any PTSD, myself included for that, but that to me is where the real problem started and what they couldn't recover from, with how much they gave up, including, Kyle Kuzma, KCP. Those two alone were big parts, both their past and could have been potentially for their future as well. And that to me was the big nail in the coffin. They traded Montrezl Harrell with them, which, whatever, not a huge part of their team. He helped a little bit, but he ended up kind of falling off pretty quickly after that. Then they included a first-round draft pick with that trade, and then to later trade away Westbrook, they had to throw in another first-round pick, and that's where it all went downhill for me. That team was obviously not good at all. It didn't fit. They gave up a lot of assets to get Westbrook. They had to give up another one to get rid of him. Luckily, they got a pretty good return package for what they gave up with D'Lo, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt at the time, and D'Lo is still part of their team. Jared Vanderbilt is. They ended up making the conference finals that year. Again, going back to the Dwight Howard quote and how he kind of directed a lot at Rob Pelinka here, I don't really think that team was the problem. Maybe if they would have retained more from their 2019-2020 team again, maybe they could have repeat. Maybe the guys they brought back wouldn't have gotten hurt. But again, that year the problem was mainly Anthony Davis and LeBron getting hurt, then Anthony Davis getting hurt again during round one. That to me was the problem. It wasn't the talent of the team or how they fit. I think that was both pretty good. It ended up being injuries, unfortunately, and then after that, they made a desperate move for Russell Westbrook, which didn't pan out for them. And if we remember that correctly, that to me is how it went, not about Rob Pelinka, making crazy, dumb moves at that time. Maybe a few of them were unnecessary, I would agree with that, but I think they still had a pretty good team, and I think Dwight Howard might be remembering this a bit incorrectly. Maybe he's a bit salty maybe not salty, but maybe a little bit disappointed in himself for leaving that team, which he didn't bring up, and people don't really remember that one correctly either. But again, kind of a letdown with what happened, I guess, but it's not entirely on Rob Pelinka here. Later on, maybe you can blame him for, but not this current team. I wish too they would have stayed together a bit longer, but that's unfortunately not how it happened. With all that being said though, I think that pretty much covers it. Hopefully you enjoyed this different type of video. We've done a couple of them, maybe do more in the future, but I thought it might be interesting to talk about between Dwight Howard chiming in, which he's done a lot lately, but then Phil Handy as well. There's still a bit of bad blood between them at the moment, and this might have shown a little bit of it. They let Phil Handy go, which I have not been a fan of. I've been very outspoken about that. I wish they would have brought him back. He did not want to come back himself due to them not even giving him an interview, a chance to become their head coach, which he obviously took offense to. But Phil Handy chiming in really tells you about how there is a little bit of miscommunication in the organization. Maybe not now anymore, but throughout the past 3-4 years, there definitely has been. And, a top guy in their staff chiming in, maybe even directing a little bit at their current general manager, really tells you about that. So there's definitely a little bit of something here to talk about. Not only Dwight Howard, but Phil Handy chiming in, then a little bit about Rob Pelinka as well. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and we'll talk about it down there. But hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.